Have you ever wondered why you second-guess yourself? Why you agree to things you don't really want? Or why you follow the crowd, even when your gut tells you not to? What if I told you, it's not your fault? You've been psychologically conditioned, manipulated without even knowing it, by dark tactics used every single day. By people, by marketers, even by the world around you. In this video, I'll reveal to you 3 of the most dangerous dark psychology tricks that are silently controlling your life. Gaslighting, the foot-in-the-door technique, and social proof bias. But this isn't just information. This is an awakening. Because once you understand how these tricks work, you'll start to see them everywhere, in relationships, at work, in sales, in the media, and more importantly, you'll finally know how to break free. Stay with me till the end because the last tactic is so powerful. It has controlled entire nations, movements, and even your daily decisions without you realizing it. This is not just psychology. This is about taking back your power. Tactic 1. Gaslighting. The dark psychology trick everyone falls for. A silent eraser of reality. Imagine this. You're standing in a room, holding a broken piece of glass. Your hand is bleeding. And the person in front of you, someone you trust, looks you dead in the eyes and says, "That glass was never there." You're imagining things. You're too sensitive. You always overreact. First you're shocked, then confused. And over time, you start to believe them. This is the devastating power of gaslighting. A psychological manipulation tactic so subtle, so quiet, that it can make you question your memories, your feelings, even your sanity. But how does it work? And why do so many people, smart, strong, kind people, fall victim to it? Let me take you deeper. The anatomy of gaslighting. What is gaslighting? Gaslighting is not just lying. It's not just denial. It is a strategic, consistent, and malicious manipulation designed to make you question your own memory, perception, and sanity. The term gaslighting comes from a 1944 movie called Gaslight, where a husband systematically manipulates his wife into believing she's losing her mind by dimming the gaslights in their home and denying that they're flickering when she notices. But gaslighting is not fiction anymore. It's real, and happening every day, everywhere. But outside of movies, gaslighting is very real, and far more dangerous. The subtle art of rewriting reality. You see, gaslighting doesn't begin with blatant lies. Start small. A tiny seeds of doubt. A harmless denial here. A subtle twist of facts there. A little comment like, "You're being too emotional. That never happened. You're remembering it wrong." A misplaced item they claim you moved. A conversation they don't remember ever happening. A decision they never agreed to, even though you recall it clearly. First, these moments seem harmless. Seems minor, almost laughable. But slowly, these seeds of doubt grow inside you. And over time, as the pattern repeats, something terrifying begins to happen. You start to question yourself. You wonder if you're overreacting. You doubt your own mind. And before you know it, you no longer trust yourself. Real-life example. The relationship that drowned in doubt. Let me tell you about Grace. Grace was a bright, joyful, and confident woman. She met someone who, at first, seemed like the perfect partner. Charming, attentive, and supportive. But as months passed, little things began to change. When she expressed how hurt she felt about something he said, he'd smile and reply, "I never said that. You must have misunderstood me." When she caught him in a lie, he'd respond, "You're crazy. You're always overthinking." When she became distant, he'd tell her, "You're the problem. You're too sensitive. No one else would put up with you." And slowly, Grace started apologizing for things she never did. She doubted her memory. She stopped speaking up. She became a shadow of herself, trapped in an invisible prison built from twisted words. That's what gaslighting does. It doesn't just manipulate facts. It manipulates you. Why gaslighting works? You might ask. Why would anyone fall for this? It's because gaslighting isn't about one lie. It's about 1,000 little lies, stacked carefully, deliberately, until you no longer know what's real. The truth is, it's not about intelligence. It's about emotional connection and trust. Gaslighters prey on your need to be loved, understood, and accepted. They use your empathy against you. They create a false reality where they are the source of truth. And you are the problem. The more you try to explain yourself, the more they spin your words. The more you defend yourself, the more crazy you appear. It's a vicious, exhausting cycle rooted in three powerful psychological forces. 1. Cognitive dissonance. When your experience clashes with someone else's version of reality, your brain struggles. And to avoid conflict, you may unconsciously choose to believe their version. 2. Trauma bonding. The manipulator alternates between cruelty and kindness. This push-pull dynamic creates emotional addiction, keeping the victim trapped and hopeful. 3. Learned helplessness. When you're constantly told you're wrong, crazy, or overreacting, you eventually stop fighting back. You surrender. You lose trust in yourself. The devastating effects. Gaslighting doesn't just hurt your feelings, it rewires your brain. Victims of long-term gaslighting often experience chronic anxiety and self-doubt, depression, a loss of identity, difficulty making decisions, isolation and loneliness. You stop trusting yourself. You second-guess everything. You become dependent on the manipulator's version of reality. That's the darkest part, the erasure of your own truth. Wider examples. Systemic gaslighting. Gaslighting doesn't just happen in romantic relationships. It happens in workplaces, in politics, in society. In toxic workplaces, you're imagining the unfair treatment. In families, that never happened in your childhood. In society, that injustice isn't real. You're overreacting. For example, think about an employee who reports toxic behavior at work, only to be told, "You're too sensitive. That's just how we do things here." Or a society that tells marginalized communities, "Discrimination doesn't exist anymore. You're imagining it." Or when victims of abuse are asked, "Are you sure you're not exaggerating?" These are systemic forms of gaslighting, eroding confidence, silencing truth, and protecting power structures. Another real-life example. David's story. Take David, a hardworking professional. For years, his boss would tell him, "You're not meeting expectations," even though David consistently exceeded targets. When David requested feedback or clarity, the boss would say, "You're being too emotional. Maybe you're not cut out for this role." David started second-guessing himself. He stayed late every night, terrified of losing his job. Until one day, after burning out, he looked back and realized it wasn't that he wasn't good enough. He had been gaslit into believing he wasn't. Gaslighting is used by narcissists, abusers, politicians, and even entire systems to maintain power and control. The emotional toll of gaslighting doesn't leave bruises. It leaves something far worse: self-doubt, anxiety, confusion, isolation, and deep emotional scars. The worst part. Victims of gaslighting often blame themselves. They say, "Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I did misunderstand. Maybe I deserved it." But let me tell you, you are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You are not imagining things. How to recognize gaslighting. So how do you know if you're being gaslit? Watch for these red flags. 1. You constantly question your memory or feelings. 2. You feel confused or crazy around a specific person. 3. You find yourself apologizing constantly. 4. You've stopped trusting your own judgment. 5. You feel isolated or emotionally drained. And here's the most important sign. You no longer feel like yourself. The silent epidemic. Today, gaslighting is everywhere. In toxic friendships. In romantic relationships. In families. In corporate offices. Even in spiritual circles. It thrives in silence, because victims often can't even recognize it's happening. How to break free. If any of this feels painfully familiar, know this. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You are not the problem. You've been manipulated, but you can break free. Here's how. 1. Name it. The first step is recognizing gaslighting for what it is. A tool of control. But the moment you name it, the moment you say, I am being gaslit, the spell breaks. You begin to reclaim your reality. You begin to heal. You begin to rise. And here's something you must always remember. Someone who deliberately twists your reality is afraid of your truth. They fear your light. They fear your voice. Your reality matters. Your feelings are valid. Your memories are real. 2. Document your reality. Keep a journal. Write down conversations, events, and how they made you feel. This helps you hold on to your truth when the gaslighter tries to erase it. 3. Talk to safe people. Isolation is the gaslighter's greatest weapon. Find people who will listen without judgment. 4. Set boundaries. You don't owe anyone endless explanations. You are allowed to protect your peace. 5. Seek professional help. Therapists trained in trauma and manipulation recovery can help you rebuild your sense of reality. Powerful reflection. I want to leave you with an ancient African proverb. When there is no enemy within, the enemy outside can do you no harm. Gaslighting tries to create an enemy within you. It tries to convince you that you're broken. But you are not broken. You are awakening. A message to you, the survivor. If you've been gaslit, I want you to hear this. Your reality is valid. Your feelings are real. Your memory is not broken. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are a survivor of psychological warfare. And the fact that you're here learning, searching, growing, that is your power. Because the most dangerous thing to a manipulator is someone who finally sees the truth. Now that you understand how gaslighting twists your mind, it's time to expose another tactic, one that feels innocent at first, but slowly chains you without you noticing. So subtle yet very powerful. You probably fall for it every single day without realizing it. The foot in the door technique. The foot in the door technique. The manipulation that starts small but ends in control. Imagine this. Salesman knocks on your door. He smiles warmly and says, "Hi, we're doing a quick survey about home security in your neighborhood. Would you mind answering just one question?" It's just one question, harmless, right? So you say yes. After a few minutes of casual conversation, he says, "Wow, you really care about home safety. Would you like a free home security evaluation? It takes just 5 minutes." Again, it sounds reasonable, so you agree. Now fast forward 2 hours later. You've signed up for an expensive security system, one you never intended to buy. You wonder, how did I get here? This is the foot in the door technique in action. It's one of the most dangerous and underestimated psychological tricks, because it makes you feel like you're in control, even when you're being manipulated every step of the way. What is the foot in the door technique? The foot in the door technique is a manipulation strategy where a small request is made first, one that seems harmless, easy, or reasonable. Then, once the person agrees, a bigger request follows, gradually increasing in size until the victim is deeply committed. Why does this work? Because once we say yes to something small, we unconsciously feel obligated to stay consistent with that choice, even when the stakes get higher. This technique is used everywhere, from sales and marketing to relationships, politics, cults, and even crime. Let's look at how it happens in real life. Real-life emotional example. Sarah's story. Sarah was a hard-working college student. One day her professor asked, "Sarah, could you help me organize some notes after class?" It was a small favor, so she agreed. The next week he asked, "Would you mind helping me grade a few student papers? It'll only take 10 minutes. Sarah felt uncomfortable but thought, "I already helped once, what's the harm?" Weeks passed. The requests grew bigger and more demanding. "Could you stay an hour late? Can you handle all the grading for this class? Would you mind covering for me while I step out?" By the time Sarah realized what was happening, she was doing unpaid work, spending hours grading papers, while her professor took the credit. How did this happen? Because she said yes to that first small favor, and her brain felt the need to stay consistent with her previous decisions. She was trapped in the foot in the door effect. Shocking real-world example. Famous scam story. Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme. Imagine being tricked into giving away your entire life savings, without realizing it. Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme did just that. He didn't ask investors for millions up front. He started small. A few $1,000s. A low-risk investment. A guaranteed profit. Once people saw a tiny return, they trusted him more. So they reinvested. Then they referred their friends. More people joined. More money came in. Before they knew it, they had given everything they had. Billions of dollars vanished overnight. And why? Because people kept saying yes to small investments, believing they were making a smart choice. This is how small commitments become dangerous traps. Why this works? The psychology of gradual manipulation. Psychologists have found that people naturally want to appear consistent with their past choices. When we say yes to something small, our self-image starts shifting. If you sign a small petition for a cause, you feel like a supporter. If you do a small favor for someone, you start seeing yourself as their helper. If you agree to a little rule, you subconsciously prepare to accept more. And once we've invested time, effort, or identity into something, it becomes much harder to walk away, even when it no longer serves us. This is how scams, toxic relationships, and even cults operate. Let's look at another real-world example, one that's even more terrifying. Another emotional real-life example is the workplace manipulation. Hey, can you stay an extra 10 minutes? That's how it starts. Just 10 minutes. You don't want to seem unhelpful, so you agree. The next week. Can you stay 30 minutes this time? We're short-staffed. Before you know it, you're staying an extra hour every night. Unpaid. It's not in your contract, but you feel obligated. After all, you already agreed a few times. You don't want to look selfish now. By the time you realize you've been manipulated, it's too late. Your boss doesn't even ask anymore. They just expect it. This is foot in the door in action. A tiny yes, turning into a never-ending cycle of bigger commitments. Let's look at another real-world example. One that's even more terrifying. A dangerous example. How cults use this technique. Do you think cults start by asking people to give up their lives and follow a leader blindly? No. They start small with something harmless. Let's take John, a successful businessman. One evening, John is invited to a free community event by a friend. It's about personal growth and finding deeper meaning in life. The speaker seems wise, charming, inspiring, and John feels uplifted. At the end, they ask, "Would you like to attend a weekend retreat? It's completely free." John thinks, "Why not?" During the retreat, they say, "If you really want to grow, why not donate just a small amount to support our mission?" A small donation turns into a monthly donation. A weekend retreat turns into moving into the group's community. A friendly conversation turns into cutting off outside relationships. And before John realizes it, he is fully trapped in a cult. It all started with a harmless invitation. This is the terrifying power of the foot-in-the-door technique, and it's happening all around us. Deeper psychological explanation why we fall for or this dark psychological trick are sunk cost fallacy and Milgram experiment. Sunk cost fallacy. It's the feeling that we can't quit something because we've already invested time, effort, or money. Think of a bad relationship. You don't leave because you've already spent years in it. Or a scam, you keep giving money, hoping to recover what you lost. The Milgram experiment proves how terrifyingly easy it is to manipulate people into doing things they wouldn't normally do. In this 1960s study, participants were asked to give electric shocks to a person, who was actually an actor. It started with a small shock, just 15 volts. Then, gradually they were told to increase the voltage. 30 volts, 50 volts, 100 volts. Soon, people were administering deadly shocks simply because they had already started the process. This experiment shows exactly how the foot-in-the-door technique works. Small commitments lead to massive, irreversible actions. How this tactic is used in everyday life. You may think, this wouldn't happen to me. But this technique is everywhere. 1. Marketing and sales. Try a free sample. Leads to a purchase. 2. Politics. Sign this small petition. Leads to deeper involvement. 3. Toxic relationships. Can you do me a tiny favor? Leads to full control. 4. Scams. Just enter your email. Leads to financial loss. It's a gradual trap, but you can escape it. How to protect yourself from the foot in the door manipulation. 1. Recognize the pattern. Yes. Recognize the trap. If someone asks for something small, pause and ask yourself, where could this lead? When you notice a request slowly increasing in size, be cautious. 2. Pause before saying yes. Ask yourself, would I agree to the big request if it were asked first? 3. Set boundaries. Set boundaries early. When your boss asks for a quick favor, respond with, I'm happy to help today, but I won't be able to stay extra next time. I'll do this once, but this can't be a regular thing. Just because you helped once doesn't mean you owe more. 4. Reevaluate past commitments. Just because you said yes before doesn't mean you must keep saying yes. You can still walk away. 5. Practice saying no without guilt. I understand why this is important, but I can't commit to that. I don't have the capacity to take this on right now. And most importantly, never feel guilty for saying no. 6. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, step back. Breaking free is hard, but remember this. You owe yourself the same loyalty you give to others. The foot in the door technique is not always malicious. It's used in everyday persuasion. But in the wrong hands, it becomes a weapon that can turn small yes into lifelong control. So the next time someone asks you for something small, think twice, because small steps can lead to dangerous places. Stay aware, stay empowered, stay free. But what if the manipulation isn't coming from one person? What if it's coming from everyone around you? Your friends, your coworkers, even complete strangers. You see, sometimes you don't even need to be asked directly. You just look around and feel an invisible pressure to conform. This is where social proof bias comes in. The terrifying psychological trick that makes you follow the crowd, even when your instincts scream something is wrong. And the worst part, you won't even realize it's happening. Let's dive in. The third and last tactics. Social proof bias. Social proof bias. The manipulation that makes you follow the crowd, even when you shouldn't. Imagine this. You're standing at a crosswalk. The signal says stop. But suddenly one person steps into the street. Then another. And another. Before you know it, dozens of people are crossing, ignoring the red light. And then, you step forward too. Why? It wasn't your decision. It was theirs. And this invisible force that made you follow the crowd even when you knew better, is what we call social proof bias. It's one of the most powerful, yet most dangerous psychological tricks used in marketing, social influence, and even manipulation. And the scariest part, it controls you every single day, without you realizing it. What is social proof bias? Social proof bias is the psychological phenomenon where we assume that if others are doing something, it must be right. It's why we pick restaurants with the longest lines, trust products with thousands of 5-star reviews, follow trends just because they're popular. It's how influencers, businesses, politicians, and even scammers manipulate us. Because when enough people say something is good, we stop questioning it. The psychological trap. Why social proof works so well? Psychologists have studied social proof for decades. And they found something terrifying. We fear standing out more than we fear being wrong. In a famous experiment, researchers had a group of people give obviously incorrect answers to a simple question, just to see if the test subject would conform. 75% of participants ignored their own eyes and followed the group. Just think about that. They knew the answer was wrong, but they went along with the crowd anyway. Why? 'Cause our brains tell us, if everyone else believes it, maybe I should too. And this is how social proof bias becomes a weapon in the wrong hands. Real-life example. The tragedy of the bystander effect. Imagine this. It's 1964. New York City. A woman named Kitty Genovese is walking home late at night. Suddenly, she's attacked. She screams for help. Loud. Repeatedly. Windows light up. Dozens of neighbors hear her. But no one moves. No one calls the police. Why? Because everyone assumed someone else would do it. This is the bystander effect, one of the most chilling forms of social proof bias. When we see a crowd doing nothing, we think doing nothing must be the right choice. And because of this, Kitty lost her life that night. How social proof creates dangerous manipulation. It's not just about following the crowd. It's about being controlled by it. Let's break down 3 real-life ways social proof bias is used against us. 1. Fake popularity, the illusion of demand. Ever noticed how some products, influencers, or ideas suddenly seem everywhere overnight? It's no accident. It's manufactured. Businesses, politicians, and marketers use this trick all the time. Fake followers and reviews. Brands buy thousands of fake 5-star reviews, making a bad product look like a bestseller. Paid crowds. Politicians pay people to show up at rallies, creating the illusion of massive support. Limited stock lies. Ever seen only 2 left in stock on an online store? It's a psychological trick. It forces you to buy fast before others take it. The result? We don't question quality. We just follow the crowd. 2. Social proof in scams. The infamous pyramid scheme. In the 1990s, a man named Charles Ponzi promised people a risk-free investment with huge returns. The trick? He paid old investors using new investors' money. People saw others making money, so they joined in. But it was all a lie. By the time the scheme collapsed, thousands of people lost their life savings. And why did they fall for it? Because they saw others investing and assumed it must be safe. 3. Stock market panic, the power of fear and hype. Social proof bias doesn't just affect small decisions. It can move entire financial markets. Think about stock market crashes. They don't happen because companies suddenly become worthless. They happen because panic spreads, and people sell their stocks just because others are selling. Example: the 2008 financial crisis. At first, only a few investors pulled out. But when others saw them selling, fear spread like wildfire. Banks collapsed. Millions lost their savings. All because people saw others panicking and followed. And it doesn't just happen with crashes. The GameStop stock frenzy of 2021 was the opposite. A group of online traders started buying GameStop stock, hyping it up on social media. More people saw it. They bought in too. Then thousands more joined just because everyone else was doing it. For a moment, people made millions. But when the hype faded, many were left with huge losses. Because they weren't investing based on logic. They were investing based on social proof. How to protect yourself from social proof manipulation. The scariest part about social proof bias. It's invisible. It doesn't feel like manipulation because it feels natural. But the good news: you can fight back. Here's how. 1. Question popularity. Just because something is popular doesn't mean it's good or true. Ask yourself, would I still believe this if no one else did? 2. Think independently. If everyone is rushing into something, pause. Are they acting rationally or just following others? 3. Avoid emotional pressure. Marketers use FOMO, fear of missing out, to force quick decisions. If something pressures you to act fast, step back. 4. Speak up even if you're alone. The bystander effect disappears when even one person takes action. If something feels wrong, be the one to break the cycle. 5. Trust your instincts. If everyone is doing it but it feels off, listen to your gut. Your instincts are smarter than social pressure. Final warning: don't let the crowd control you. The foot in the door technique starts small, but ends in control. But social proof bias skips the small steps. It makes you jump straight in because everyone else is doing it. And that's why it's one of the most dangerous forms of psychological manipulation. So the next time you see a trend, a movement, or a decision gaining momentum, and ask yourself, do I actually believe this? Or am I just following the crowd? Because in the end, the most dangerous lies aren't the ones we're told. They're the ones we accept because everyone else believes them. Stay aware. Stay independent. Stay free. Conclusion. Breaking free from the chains of manipulation. As we wrap up this journey through 3 powerful psychological tactics, gaslighting, the foot-in-the-door technique, and social proof bias, it's clear that these strategies don't just manipulate our thoughts, but they shape the way we live our lives. The truth is, each of us has the power to break free from these chains. Awareness is the first step in taking control of your own decisions. The next time someone tries to gaslight you, pressure you into a commitment, or manipulate you with a crowd, remember, you have the power to choose. Your mind is your greatest ally. Don't let anyone take that from you. And don't allow manipulation to dictate your thoughts, your actions, or your values. Now it's your turn. Stand firm in your convictions. Trust yourself. The next time you face a manipulative situation, you'll know how to spot it, and how to take action to protect your peace. If this video has helped you, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on more life-changing insights. And share this video with someone you care about, because together we can break the chains of manipulation and embrace true freedom. You are stronger than you think. You are wiser than you know. And your future is in your hands. Take charge of your mind, your decisions, and your life today.